Welcome to Books of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Larry Carnes, and as always, we're so excited to have you join us. And we have a very special guest with us today. Doug, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great today. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Do this for us. Introduce yourself to our viewing audience and let them know a little bit about who Doug is.
Well, there's a lot, but we'll try and keep it to a minimum. Uh, my name is Doug Hauser. I was born outside Chicago, uh, and my father was a college professor at Wheaton there. My mother joined him later on. But so it's nice thing about being a teacher or being a college professor is you get summers off, or at least part of them. And one thing our family did that was great is we used to take 3 weeks and just drive across the West. You know, you hear about the songs, the Purple Mountain Majesties across the fruited plains. And that's what we spent our time doing, and just camping in a different national park almost every night. So that was kind of like my backyard growing up, and just loved it. Eventually, we moved out to the foothills of the Rockies to Spokane, Washington. That's where I grew up. And as much time as I could, I'd be out, venturing further into the wilderness as my skills and my age allowed me to, and started kayaking and doing a little climbing and backpacking, things like that. Um, and eventually, that being the time, I got drafted into the Vietnam War, and they made me a medic. And I didn't go to Vietnam, but they sent me to Korea. And I did not. I was surprised that they thought I was good at it. I enjoyed being a medic, found out I was good in emergencies and so forth. So they wanted to send me to medical school, um, to be a doctor and so forth. And I thought, well, I think I'll do it myself. So when I got out of the Army, I went back to college, got my biology degree, pre-med. But, all along we were camping and hiking and so forth. And when I was in the Army as well, they was able to enroll in the U.S. Army Rangers, had a program with mountaineering and climbing and ropes and so forth. So that just kind of started introducing more elements to me. When I got out of the Army, friends and I used to climb some mountains. We climbed the second tallest mountain in Washington State on snowshoes in the middle of the winter and so forth. That was just what we did for recreation out there. And
Okay.
but the last year I was in school, I just started having second thoughts about that medical school, and instead I joined a Christian rock band, and we toured for a while, and then eventually, as a team, went back and planted a church in New Jersey, and so that grew. And of course, we had a rock band which attracts lots of young people. Eventually, had 60 or 70 kids in the youth group, and
Okay.
the parents were interested in having a school, so I helped start a school there. And eventually, after a while, I started teaching in public schools, taught biology and forensic science for 20 years, and then along the way, um, met some people that introduced me to technical rock climbing. And
Okay.
so those are some of my hobbies. The music, the dedication to, I was an associate pastor on the church there, and just kind of like pioneering new things. I like the pioneer spirit.
Okay.
So
So you've written this fascinating book, Coulter's Mountain, A Tale of High Adventure. Says 13-year-old Coulter's summer vacation takes a twist when he finds himself on a boiling city sidewalk on the hottest day of the year. He finds hope in an ad in the back of a comic book, and this comic book promises to send a special rock for free that he can plant in the backyard. Talk to us about this book that you've written and share with us this adventure that you've written about.
sure. Well, I drew on some of my own experiences in the mountains and climbing and mountaineering and so forth. But of course, this is a little special because he's stuck on this broiling sidewalk. And I've been in the urban areas where there's just not much place to go and, not much to do to escape from the heat and the crowdedness. And so I just imagine what would happen if he was able to suddenly get into these mountainous areas. And I don't remember how I got the idea, but planting a rock, maybe it was Jack and the Beanstalk, uh, planting something that grows into that he can climb up, and raid the giant's house. So the mountain grows, and almost no one else can see it. He gets it, and he plants it, and sure enough, that in a day or two, he goes out and he finds this cliff in his backyard, hidden behind some trees. So he climbs up there, and he finds this incredible forest of evergreen trees just reaching into the sky, and it's so quiet and peaceful, and rushing streams and pools. And this becomes his habit in the summer. Every day he tries to get up there, and he's of course trying to tell his parents about it, but they just think his imagination is running wild. And so, but while he's up there, he eventually meets a mountain man that finds him and says, "Listen, Coulter, you're doing great up here. I've been watching your progress from afar. I can smell your campfire, you're cooking fish and stuff like that. That sounds great, but you're going to need some help. You're going to have to find some professional people to help you out if you want to ever get to the top of your mountain, or if you want to stay safe up here. So there's a mountaineering lodge right in your town, and you need to get connected with those people," and gives them some further advice. So Coulter immediately sets about trying to find this mountaineering lodge. He looks in the phone book. They still have one of those old archaic items in the drawer. And he, while he's on the way to find this mountaineering lodge, he notices a girl about his age, maybe a little older, but she's wearing hiking boots in the middle of the city. And he's like, "What?" So he has to run to catch up with her. And he says, she introduces herself. Her name is Chrysanthemum, but turns out she's a member of this lodge. She was just heading that way anyway. So she takes him there and introduces him to the head climbers and so forth, and finds out her family, they've all had mountains. And of course, eventually, she kind of takes them under her wing, he and his friends, and teaches them a lot of climbing skills. And they endeavor to try and get to the top at Coulter's Mountain, because he can see it off in the distance, but he's having a hard time finding his way through all the canyons and forests and cliffs and so forth to get there. But
so you say he can see the mountain, Coulter can see the mountain. It comes to fruition. He gets introduced to this older person who says, "You're going to need some help." And so now he meets this young lady. She's an experienced hiker. She begins to share information with him, gives him some background. Now you said, but his parents, I noticed here doing the research that his parents were not able to see the mountain.
Right. Well, the mountain man that he met at first, just, experienced climber, his name is Bridger. And he said that, well, it's just an odd thing. Sometimes when people are going to get their own mountain or join us up here, sometimes they get little glimpses of the mountain. So he finds one of his friends actually saw them up on a cliff somewhere. He thought they were on the roof of a building, but they were actually, looking out over the city from his mountain. And his parents had actually seen a glimpse or two. They thought they were seeing something up above the thunderhead clouds in the summer. But what really gets them convinced is when he finds a meadow up there that's just full of huckleberries, the wild blueberries, and he brings back a backpack full of them.
Oh.
They try it and they say, "Where did you get these?" And then he says, "Listen, I've been trying to tell you all along, but they're up on the mountain." And so then they realized, well, where did these come from? And they start coming to the lodge and investigate and become part of the crew.
So he has evidence.
Yes.
That the things that he's been saying all the time actually exist.
Right.
And now you're saying, so now the parents come to the realization where he hadn't been talking out of his head all this time. And you say they become a part of the crew. So continue to share with us. Now, this adventure, you shared that as you were writing this book, also, it took parts of your life because you love to hike. You shared that with us in your introduction. How much of this book really you're giving us insights into who Doug is?
Well, I probably I am Coulter, in a sense that, although I don't think I was as enterprising or as confident or maybe as athletic at that age as Coulter is, but then I looked at my younger brother and thought about his actions when he was 13 and said, well, if you combine the two of us, that would work. He would be Coulter, So, but, we had a lot of experience, of course, skiing and climbing. And when we were trying to climb one of the tall mountains, I think it was called Snowshoe Mountain in the Cabinet Mountains in Montana, which is just, a day and a half's hike into the wilderness. And eventually there's no trail. We had to find our own.
Wow.
And then we were up it's about almost 9,000 feet. And when we were just about to start our final push, we woke up in the morning from our camp and just realized there's a thunderstorm coming. Let's get out of here. So some of the experiences that Coulter and his friends have are being chased off the mountains by a thunderstorm, and that was us in real life. It was a good thing we weren't up where we had been, because that was like, the impact zone for all the lightning bolts. And, there's a lot of other experiences I had like that.
It's powerful. So you've talked about, okay, throughout your life, always taking the trips with your family, going and camping in these different places. So as you write in this book, I see how now Coulter and Doug, and then with the mixture of your brother in there, the adventurous and the athletic one, so you combine it to write this book. I was looking at something here. You talk about, will they be able to overcome the challenges, convincing their parents where they were able to accomplish that. But then you talk about how they face off against grizzly bears and the towering cliffs and dangerous weather to find a route to the top of Coulter's Mountain. You said that you noticed that there was a storm coming, and you all said, okay, we've got to get out of here. What were some of the indicators, and how had you learned to just identify those things to let you know a storm was coming? Take about 30 to 40 seconds and share that with us before we go into our break.
Well, we had camped at the highest point, just underneath the approach to the peak. And I woke up in the middle of the night and it just felt groggy. You woke up in the morning and you feel just like this heaviness in the atmosphere. And then we looked up north towards Canada and we could see this black sky just coming down the valley. And that was kind of the tip off. We could feel the changes in the atmosphere. We could see that coming, and we just looked at each other and said, let's take a picture or two and get out of here. And it took us, it took us a long time to get up there, but it didn't only take us a couple hours to get down to where the trail started. And by the time we hit the trail, it was just pouring buckets and the lightning was bombarding all over.
Wow. Hold on to that thought. Don't go any place. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL and see the difference it can make in your life.
Buy one, get two free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3, a value of more than $85. Call today and you pay only $39.95. Plus, you have nothing to lose because it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Call now.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Such an exciting and adventurous journey that Doug is taking us on. Now, Doug, before we left, we talked about some of the challenges. There were grizzly bears and other things that were taking place there. Talk to us about these grizzly bears.
Well, anytime you go into the deep wilderness, you're going to find wild animals. Probably the most dangerous thing you can do is get between a wild animal and their cub or whatever. People make that mistake a lot. But also there's grizzly bears are quite renowned for being territorial and being unpredictable and having sometimes a very difficult personality, shall we say. And when Coulter found the blueberries for his parents, he had picked his backpack full and he was just about ready to go, but he looked up and he saw up the hill that there was a grizzly bear staring him down. And the grizzly bear charged, and he remembered reading, information on what to do about bear attacks and things like that. And he knew that he couldn't outrun it.
Yeah. Wouldn't
do much good. It's the only thing, and it says you just curl up in a ball and so forth. He didn't feel that. He felt like he wanted to do that. He had noticed that this meadow was right on the edge of a cliff. So I don't want to give too much of the story away, but he pulled a Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone was a famous pioneer, being treated by some Native Americans who kind of invaded their territory and they didn't like it. To escape from them, he jumped off the top of a cliff into a tall tree, that's in the historical record. So that's it. Basically what Coulter tried to do is jump off a cliff into a tree that was there. So long story short, he made it, the bear didn't.
That's amazing. So we talk about those obstacles and the things that he's facing with the bear being there, having to escape the bear and things of that nature. Now, I noticed something as I was researching the book. We talked about the worst of all can they escape the deadly plot of a sinister enemy known as the Alpinists? Who is this person?
Well, this is a climber who is really, a skilled climber who's, led expeditions and gained renown. But it seems like his motivation is not really enjoying the mountains or, being up there and the skill and the sport of climbing, but he's more mercenary. He wants to take the resources that up there, harvest the timber, maybe some of the furs of the animals. And so he's quite aware that people have these mountains. What he tries to do is give them bad advice so he can get them out of the way. And then he can move in and, harvest some of the, find some way to get the resources out for himself. Maybe if there's gold in the creeks, like the 40 acres in California, or there's timber, or there's fur. So he does a lot of things, and he has a lot of connections in the towns and so forth. So he tries to get the young people that have these mountains off track, doing dangerous things, or even preventing them, from being able to get up to their mountains by influencing their parents that, this is a dangerous thing. They shouldn't be involved in these fantasies and things like that. So that the book, concentrates on Coulter and his friends achieving the goal of climbing his own mountain, but then also there's a plot to try and get rid of them, to get them trapped, in bad situations. And one of his friends eventually does get trapped in a terrible situation in a blizzard without much equipment up in the high mountains. And it's up to Coulter and his friends and the crew from the lodge to try and help him.
That's amazing. Now, in chapter 2, you talk about the secret pool. Share a little bit with us about the secret pool.
Oh, that's one of the first pleasures that Coulter finds. He's down, like we said, it was the hottest day of the year, and he's sweltering on the sidewalk, and wondering, gee, do people die of starvation or thirst first? But when he gets up into this beautiful western red cedar forest, trees 150 feet tall, and he's following a bluebird that's just leading him through the forest, and he comes across this stream. It looks like something just off of a spring water, a bottled spring water ad or something like that. But he follows it, and it leads to this beautiful deep pool, just surrounded by overhanging boughs of trees. And he's very careful. He's you shouldn't jump into pools that you don't know anything about. But he finds a spot and he jumps in, and he's just, after sweltering on the sidewalk, now he's just up to his neck in this icy cold, beautiful, pure water. And just, he just swims around deep, swims down to the bottom, try and find it, comes back up, and just till he's just about numb. And then he just finds a nice warm rock to crawl out on. So that's how he's spending his first couple summer days. And just the beautiful things that are out there in nature, in the wilderness that I enjoyed growing up.
Yes, it's amazing. Now, see, as you're telling this story, I can imagine, I can actually picture that. And I think our viewing audience, as you're sharing the stories and the adventures in this powerful book, I want our viewing audience to be able to imagine themselves and just see what you're so eloquently laying out for us. As you were sharing that, I can remember being in Belize, and we were going someplace, and we came to this place where there was a big hole, and we went down these stairs, and there this big pool was with this water, and we just jumped off into it. So I could see that as you're sharing the adventures of Colter and how he goes from being so hot to he jumps in this refreshing pool, and it's so chilling, now he wants to get out and sit on a warm rock. I mean, laid that out so eloquently. Talk to us now, something here about this young girl that he meets, this experienced hiker. You talk about her way up and the name that she has, Chrysanthema. How did she get this name? And chapter 6 talks about Chrysanthema's way up. Talk to us about that.
Sure. Well, Chrysanthemum is 14. She's a little older, which is a light years compared to a 13-year-old boy. But she has grown up. Her parents were members of the lodge and had climbed a lot. And so she grew up climbing and, doing technical climbing. When Colter goes into the lodge, and she's obviously very athletic. She's got long blonde hair she wears in braids. But Chrysanthemum, I guess she got her name because her mom's name was Iris, and she just wanted to name her after a flower. So she got tagged with this little bit awkward name, perhaps, although she prefers Chris or Chris Ann for short. But she's a very skilled climber, and there's a way of rating climbs in the climbing world. It's called the Yosemite Decimal System, and so the rate of difficulty, keeps increasing because people keep mastering more and more difficult climbs. But she could climb somewhere near the top of these ratings. I mean, if you can imagine going into your house and doing a pull-up on the lintel across the top of the door, just with your fingertips. That's what the skills that are necessary to be able to get up that way. And of course, she knows all these other ways to contort your body. It's kind of like combining chess and gymnastics to get up some of these difficult sheer cliffs.
Wow. Now, so you're sharing these adventures. Talk to our viewing audience about some adventures and some experience that they can navigate as they're reading this powerful book. What will be some of the lessons learned for those who are going to go out and purchase the book?
Sure. As I'm writing it, I see, of course, metaphors just for life in general, difficulties that you face, that you keep persisting. You have to gain sometimes different or new skills. Sometimes it takes people to help you. So Colter had to follow Bridger's directions, the mountain man, to join this group where their whole focus was enabling people to utilize their mountain and enjoy these experiences and go further. And so it took a whole team, crossing a glacier where there's crevasses and so forth, to be able to get to the place where Coulter could, climb his own mountain with a team.
Yes.
So, sometimes to get where you need to be in life, you need a team, you need persistence, and you need the belief that it's there and you can do that. So those are just some of the things I think that would resonate with every age group, not even just the young people that might read it. I've had just as many adults reading it as young people. Some of them are reading it with their kids, which is really fun. So
that's a great idea to make it an adventure where they can share time, the joy of reading, and then when you visualize and go on this journey together as you share and reading this adventurous book. I mean, you've introduced Bridger, you've introduced the alpinist, and then of course the young lady who's going to teach him and share her experiences, how his parents have become awakened and now they can see the vision that he had. He's got these berries that's proof. He meets the grizzly bear. Life has its adventures and its challenges. You've so eloquently laid it out in here. Awesome job in writing this book.
Thank you.
We're
going to see if we can see if we can make it into a movie.
Oh, excellent idea. Yeah. The Adventures of Coulter. Coulter's A Tale of High Adventure. That's great. Do this for us, Doug. While you're here, share with our viewing audience any contact information that you might have, be it website, email. Of course, you want to let them know where they can go and purchase this awesome book. And are you available to come in and speak and do things like that if people desire to bring you in?
Sure. They can go to my website right now. It is DougHouserTellsStories.com. So DOUGHOUSR tells stories, and it's all one word. That'll give you a lot of information, about where you can buy the book from my publisher. There'll be more websites coming up and so forth. Yeah, I would love to come. We have a lot of homeschool kids in the church I attend, and a lot of them are reading the book. So we get together and we have discussions sometimes about what does this mean, what's your favorite part, just about literature and so forth, reading, but also, is there a bigger picture, like a metaphor or an allegory in each of these situations? Do you see something? I've discovered metaphors I didn't intend to put in there. Sometimes I'm writing it and I'm like, oh, that's a good word picture, and
Excellent. And then with your teaching background, and you're able to communicate and connect with the young audience, and then you can pull them in and have those discussions when they're reading the book. We want to encourage our viewing audience and those who are tuning in to go out, purchase this book. You've heard Doug talk about how you can use it as a family project to sit down and read and discuss with parents and their children. Group projects, how he's doing it in the church there. They're coming together with the young people. They're discussing the book, see themselves taking this journey and this adventure. Coulter's Mountain, A Tale of High Adventure. You can also purchase the book there on Amazon. So you can go and purchase the book there.
Noble, Amazon, Westbow Press.
Yes. So Doug, take about 10 seconds now, 10, 15 seconds, and share your closing remarks with our viewing audience.
Well, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I think that whatever age group you are, sometimes you think you might be too old for that, but then as you get older, you realize you can get young again by reading these types of adventures. And it just, I think it opens the door to experience the wonderful things that are out there in nature that God's created. And
that's great. Doug, we want to thank you for being our guest. I'm Dr. Larry Carnes. Don't forget, tune in again right here next time for Books of the Month. Doug, optimum blessings to you.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.